Christine, you miss me now?
Yeah.
If I was running the meeting, we'd have been through by now.
Okay, welcome to the Board of Directors meeting of Trinity Metro. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance first. Paul, can you start us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we do the Texas flag?
No. That's not like that. You know, at the RTC, they do
One and indivisible.
the life of me. Do we have citizen comments today? Okay, we'll close the citizen comment period and move on to the meeting of the minutes. Any changes or additions to the minutes of the last meeting? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Moving into the committee reports, the RTC, I think Gina Bivens is now the vice chair of the RTC. She's the self-pronounced president of the Michael Morris Fan Club, just in case anybody forgets that, and she'll make a good vice chair. But what we did substantively, I think, is approve the 2045 mobility plan. All of the projects in North Texas go through this mobility plan, and it's got to be on their agenda. And so we approved it, and it's a pretty good and lengthy process. And while we have Chad here, I want to put him on the spot and ask him about, we talked about it while you were ill at the last committee meeting. Can you reiterate your meeting with TxDOT and how that went?
Sure. Chad Edwards, VP Planning Development. Right, so I had a meeting with TxDOT to really go over our vision for the East Lancaster corridor as far as the BRT. And it was well received by the leadership there. I was able to meet with the district engineer, Carl Johnson, the deputy district engineer, John Corderi, Ricardo Gonzalez, who's Director of Transportation Planning and Programming, and then we had a former TxDOT Fort Worth District Engineer, Brian Barth, who is now a Deputy Executive Director in Austin for TxDOT, and we're able to talk to them about the idea that we had for the BRT corridor in dedicated lanes along East Lancaster. Pardon me. And like I said, it was very well received. They asked a lot of questions about, all right, well, how do you think this works? Where do you fit into this? Where do we fit into this? I think the opportunity for us to work with the city and TxDOT and COG on alternatives analysis, feasibility study, will be coming up very soon to be able to help answer those questions on should it be a dedicated BRT, dedicated right-of-way, as we've envisioned as a transit authority, or is it something more akin to what we have out there today with the bus on the outside lane providing that service?
Your knowledge as a planner and being in the industry, has there ever been any example of a technology corridor like being proposed that creates economic development?
You're setting me up, but no, I haven't. I haven't seen that. I think a lot of it is, infrastructure really helps start that investment for others. If they see a permanence that's there along the corridor, this is why you see development occur when highways or tollways get built in areas that didn't have anything previously. This is the same type of concept where you start to put in the infrastructure similar to that of the BRT along Lancaster. Developers start to see that investment in that corridor, and then start to want to make their own investment in that corridor as well.
What's the timing on that study? Ballpark?
Last time I talked to my counterpart at the city of Fort Worth, it was within the next month to release that RFP.
That's excellent. Thanks, Chad.
Yep, thank you.
Glad you're better.
One quick question.
Yeah.
Chad, there was some reference made to San Antonio,
That's right.
their BRT project. Can you explain that?
So I brought that up when I was with TxDOT, and it was actually, there's not really a corollary between East Lancaster and San Antonio. San Antonio had different parameters, I think, for that particular project. One happens to be that that project was in the TxDOT commissioner's home neighborhood. So there's a little influence there, I think, that the commissioner had. And so really not a corollary there. The only thing that I could really draw a conclusion to is that the opportunity for the state corridor to be returned to the city and taken from system to off system. I brought that up again in the meeting, and that's not necessarily an item that's going to make or break that project for East Lancaster. If we have to leave it on system and it's still a dedicated BRT corridor, that's not going to be a problem to work with TxDOT. I think for the city, they would much rather have that corridor on their own, but either way, it doesn't really impact negatively the project that we're trying to do.
Who owns the right of way on East Lancaster?
TxDOT. It's a TxDOT corridor. Yes, sir. Roughly 140 feet wide from Riverside. You know, it's a little bit further west of that, but Riverside all the way to 820.
Any other questions, Chad? Thank you, Chad.
All right, thank you.
Let's move to Charles, commuter rail working session for committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Commuter Rail Committee met on the 21st of June and received reports on safety and operations, and we also have one action item. Regarding safety, both TexRail and TRE continue its stellar safety performance, with TexRail well over 4 years injury-free. Likewise, both commuter rail lines continue exceeding on-time performance goals. Ridership continues to increase for both rail lines. TexRail completed April with an 8% increase month over month and a 100% increase year over year. TRE has a 5% decrease month over month, largely driven by spring break the previous month. However, TRE did witness a 38% increase year over year. We have one action item, Mr. Chairman. It's BA 2022-40, extending authorized parking timeframe at TexRail stations. The committee has thoroughly examined this over a period of 2 meetings and unanimously recommended to the board for approval. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Charles? Hearing none. Is someone prepared to give the POM committee report? Chris is not here? Oh, Michael. Yeah. Hey, Michael, would you read it?
Yes, sure. Operation KPI recap, fixed route met its goals except for on-time performance, which was 89.3% on time versus a plan of 90%. Access in-house and contract services met all goals for April. Major preventable collisions for all lines of business continued performing better than goal at a 0 accident frequency ratio. Ridership report highlighted by Phil Dupler, Director of Planning, showed a system-wide increase in ridership year over year of 27%. Phil also highlighted the comparison chart to other Texas transit agencies, where Trinity Metro has recovered roughly 61% of its riders since the bottom of the pandemic in February 2020. Phil Phil also shared an information item which included a presentation provided to the Texas Department of Transportation local leadership team regarding Trinity Metro's vision for a bus rapid transit corridor along East Lancaster Avenue in Fort Worth. Lastly, Phil outlined an action item for the upcoming September 2022 service changes where routes will be modified to better connect to the VA clinic in Southwest Fort Worth. Marketing update, our marketing department is the proud recipient of 2 first-place Apt to Add Will awards and are now in the running for a grand prize honor to be awarded this fall. Campaigns to increase ridership were successful in April, exceeding established ridership goals. Our email marketing campaigns continue to perform well with an average 27% open rate, which is well above the national average of 17%. In our customer experience division, calls continue to stay above our year over year, but our customers are not having to wait on hold for very long. In fact, 67% of our customers had no wait time. We have restarted our onboard surveys and are receiving good feedback from our customers on how we can better serve them. Our van pool program continues to be successful. We now have 138 van pools with 883 participants. Gas prices are really pushing people to rideshare. The Planning Operations Marketing Committee has 5 action items to be considered under the consent agenda today. The Planning Operations and Marketing Committee recommend these items for approval. Let the record show I am not Chris Nettles. This includes my report. You're welcome.
Any questions or comments on the report or any matter?
Mr. Chairman, in our committee meetings, a couple of things came up that we thought we might be able to get a report on. And I don't see it on the agenda, but the staff knows what they are, and perhaps at our next committee meeting, we can have that information that we wanted.
Oh, imagine you'll probably bring it up in the committee meeting as opposed to board meeting on Sunday afternoon. Okay, how about the Finance and Audit Committee? Dan, committee report, please.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. We also had a meeting earlier or I should say last week. The major items that we want to talk about are during the month of April, sales tax collections were up by 11% from April of '21. Overall sales tax collections for the year are up by 17% or $9.6 million over budget. Grapevine contributions, thank you, Paul, for March 22 increased by 43% from March of '21. Overall revenues, again, were significantly impacted in a positive way by the sales tax. Also, we had fare increases, and then there were some timing issues that helped us. The operating expenses for fiscal '22 are under budget, primarily due again to certain timing issues and also insurance costs and lower staffing levels. The balance sheet is in good shape and is consistent with prior months. The Finance and Audit Committee has no action items for this month. And that concludes the report.
Go back briefly to the POM committee, and there's sort of an article going around about DART, and my dad had the expression, there for the grace of God go I. And DART was having some problems with their staffing. They just did their bus reimagination, and we talk about that a lot at Trinity Metro. And, hats off to the entire staff, especially Wayne, for understanding that every day we need to focus on that staffing and get people committed, and every little thing you do for the folks is a big deal. And we're just fortunate, I think. Knock on wood, we can have that problem as well, but we take it very seriously, and I'm really proud of the staff for keeping ahead of that power curve, because we'll be there someday with more difficulties, but we'll get them overcome because we really do focus on it. So I want to thank you, Wayne, and the rest of the staff for keeping that.
Mr. Chairman, I feel remiss if I didn't say that the staff has really stepped up since I've been here, and they're doing an excellent job. But particularly on regards to this report, Fred Crosley and his department have improved our financial reporting considerably over the last 6 months, and I think the whole board appreciates that, and I think we want to pay you that compliment, Fred, and please pass it on to your staff as well. Thank you.
Okay, bike sharing, Ben, where's Ben?
That's me. During the May 3rd, I'm vocal, Bike Sharing Advisory Committee meeting, we reviewed ridership statistics and are still seeing higher ridership year over year, which is very exciting for our market. The $10 price increase has been implemented, and there have been no issues or concerns vocalized back to the agency, so we're also excited about that. Thank you for the board for agreeing to pass that at our last meeting. Fort Worth Bike Sharing is proud to be one of the first bicycle or B-cycle systems to implement an e-bike battery recycling program with call-to-call recycling, which is super cool. That makes us both green and fitnessy, so it's a double win. There is still ongoing discussion to place stations on the UNT campus and in Grapevine and North Richland Hills. We'll continue to keep the board updated as those proposals advance. The next 3 stations to be placed in Fort Worth will be the second station at Gateway Park, one at Belknap and Oakhurst Scenic, and one at Sycamore Park. Very excited to see those. All of those have been selected based on interactivity and reach by Jennifer Grissom and her team as far as where people want to ride in the city. And we continue to be proactive in communicating with those users of our facilities. So we're very excited to see the continued growth there. We are also beginning our Art Bike program with a bike celebrating the Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, similar to the bus that you see running around town. That's been a wonderful thing that we did with the Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and we're going to do a very similar art program with our bikes over on the north side, and then have them, as all of our bike sharing bikes do, they will meander around town, eventually ending up at all the stations as people ride them. It's super cool. Last order of business was to look at our service provider and gather information on what other providers are available so that we are ensuring we have the best product available for our riders. As with all the departments within Trinity Metro, status quo is never good enough. We're always looking to make sure we're being the best and brightest within our industry and continuing that within Fort Worth Bike Sharing as well. So, any questions for bike sharing? I can answer anything.
Well, then I'll ask you a question.
Oh,
So, do you recall?
Jennifer's not here. Oh, no. What do you got?
Do you recall how much of the last bond issue that Fort Worth passed was going to be allocated for bike lanes?
I do not have that answered, but Chad always likes to stand up and answer Fort Worth questions.
If I remember right, it was about $11 million.
So 11D.
Do you know how that's going to be implemented, or is it just, do they have plans for it, or?
Actually,
Oh, for the 2022 bond program? No, I don't know when that's going to be implemented. It's going to take a couple months for them to actually get the money and then start those projects.
The intent was, on that one, actually can't answer that one, phased rollout over the 4-year program of the spend. So as they're doing each component where they can implement it, it will be a piece that's funded because of the bond passing. So some of it immediately on the projects that can hit it and get it, and then the rest of them will be included.
Does that include West 7th?
It's almost done.
I know, fine.
Prior bond issue.
Yep.
Please tell us, JJ, that we want her to continue to be aggressive, because I think having allocated bike lanes, dedicated lanes, is really huge for increasing that activity. And I'd love to be able to ride a bike, but Forest Park where there are no dedicated lanes, it's scary.
It's exciting. It's for your adrenaline. You burn more calories when your adrenaline's pumping.
Have a car.
That's right.
Okay, thank you, Ben.
Could we get an update on the bike situation? As I recall, we ordered some more bikes. Weren't they electric bikes?
Yes.
They were ordered. So how many bikes do we have in the fleet now?
That is a great question that we will bring to our next committee meetings. I know we are upgrading our e-bikes, adding more e-bikes, and working. That is the premier use that people are wanting when they're wandering around intoxicated over on 7th. And so we're working on growing that fleet, and I'll make sure that we have that for the next committee update.
Thank you, Charles. And then Tito for the Access Advisory Committee.
Yes, our Access Advisory Committee met on June 1st. A few highlights from that meeting. Our year-to-date access on-time performance is at 91.6%. Overall access ridership is up 22.8% from this time last year. Rodney Woods gave the committee members an update on the new Southeast Zip Zone that began on June the 1st. The service runs during the weekdays from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And Jeff Matlin mentioned that Access is looking forward to a Trapeze software update. Trapeze is the current scheduling software that Access uses. We're hoping that the software update will help with on-time performance and a reduction of lengthy trips. That concludes my report.
Are there any items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda? If there are no items to be withdrawn, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, and Tito a second. All those in favor of the consent agenda say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carries. I want to point out one thing before we get into the president's report. We've been getting statistics about how well we're doing versus other transit agencies. And I think that's, we're not trying to, well, we are trying to boast a little bit, but, everybody's asking us about how well we're doing. And I think if you just remember that, from month to month about our 61% rate versus the other communities, that it's real, again, and we're gilding the lily here with the staff, but this turnaround is really important. We need to keep the pedal of the metal, as they say, and keep improving and keep doing better, and we will. So just throw that out there when you're in the marketplace, whoever you talk to about. We are actually recovering better because we're better, faster, and cheaper than other transit agencies who really care about these statistics and getting people where they need to go. So just a quick comment, and I want everybody to understand that we're doing a really good job recovering from a very difficult time. With that, I'd like to turn over to Rich for his president.
It's first.
Welcome. Yes, first.
Thank you. You all bring a smile to my face. Good afternoon, Chairman Davis, Vice Chairman Rodriguez, board members, Trinity Metro staff, and members of the public. I'd like to begin by thanking the board for the opportunity to join this exceptional Trinity Metro team. Over the last few months, I've enjoyed getting to know each of you and hearing your ideas for Trinity Metro and aspirations for Fort Worth and Tarrant County. You've given me such a warm welcome, offering support during my transition, and to my family who will be joining me in a few weeks, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I would also like to acknowledge outgoing President and CEO Paul Ballard for his service. Paul is not here this afternoon, but I had the opportunity to spend considerable time with him over the last several weeks. Paul has been a steady hand at the helm, returning to Trinity Metro for the second time in 2021. I asked each of our executive leaders to share a few thoughts about Paul. I heard consistently that Paul is a consummate professional. He, along with others in this room, made sure Tex Rail was delivered on time and under budget, secured a new administrative headquarters for Trinity Metro, and strengthened Trinity Metro's relationship with our business partners. And the list goes on. I am grateful to Paul for his support and leadership. As the new president and CEO, my goal is to listen, to get to know our Trinity Metro team, our customers, and members of our community. I want to hear your ideas and feedback on what we do and how we can do it better. In just the last 7 days, I rode multiple services, including the Molly the Trolley, Tex Rail, and Trinity Railway Express. I visited Fort Worth Central Station, Fort Worth TMP Station. I spoke with many bus drivers, conductors, and staff. I attended a working session of the Fort Worth City Council, several breakfast meetings with business leaders, and the annual luncheon of the Fort Worth Metropolitan Black Chamber of Commerce. And yesterday, I joined Trinity Metro and DART staff and first responders for a rail safety drill
at the TRE Richland Hill Station. Some themes have emerged in these conversations. First, there is strong support for Trinity Metro. There's no question about it. But our stakeholders are telling me we need to do more frequent service, more coordinated connections, Sunday service on TRE, and progress on important capital construction projects, including the near South Side Rail Extension, redevelopment of TMP Station, and East Lancaster Avenue Bus Rapid Transit. In addition to new investment, we need to find ways to reach new customers who may not yet have discovered our great transit services. Again, it is an honor and a privilege to join this exceptional team. I will be continuing my listening tour in the coming weeks. To members of the public who may be watching this meeting, if you see me, please introduce yourself. I would love to meet you and hear your ideas for Trinity Metro. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my remarks.
Oh, Rich, thank you. Lovely remarks, and we're beyond elated to have you and your family here. We can't wait to have them in Tarrant County. It was an arduous and important process that we went through, and I think everybody is really pleased that you're here, and we look forward to doing many, many things. And from our vision, I think we have much work to do. And one of the things I want the board to think about is at the end of July, there's going to be in Austin sort of a How Austin Did It seminar. And I think as many of you that can go, if you wouldn't mind going, even if it's one day, I think it might give us a roadmap to the kinds of things we need to do to get that frequency and to get those capital projects built that are in Transit Moves Fort Worth and the T Master Plan back in 2015. So welcome, and it's a challenge. It never ends. There will always be work to do and always be somewhat swimming upstream. But I do feel like, and I want to take Michael and Chris, and I feel like it's a new day for the relationship we've had, and I'm really grateful for the council. Really is. Thank you, Rich. Thank you. Working with everybody.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say that I'm slightly disappointed he didn't get the same hazing as Chris and I did on our first meeting with 5 hours of Chad Edwards. Maybe we can do that another time, though. But welcome, Rich.
Heard of that? Did you say hazing?
Look, I did use that word, yes.
And one of the things
Very good.
Rich wanted to do early on was essentially we've been COVIDed out of these retreats, and after the new board is appointed in September, we'll have more time, hopefully all day and maybe a day and a half, just to sit down and talk. We have very little time just to talk. And to corollary to Rich and what he's doing is Paul and I talked, I think a week ago, about the kinds of things we might do to welcome Rich. And I want you to let us know what y'all are planning, you and Tito. I think it's just terrific as a partner of Trinity Metro, the kinds of things y'all are thinking about. So what are you doing, Paul?
I'm sorry?
What are y'all doing to have this event, getting folks together?
Oh, well, it wasn't public yet, but I guess it is public now. We're just scheduling a reception for Rich in August at the Hotel Venn to show Rich and hopefully some of our partners at Fort Worth and the board and whoever else wants to join to see what Grapevine's doing, what we've done, where we're going in the future, over the next 3 to 5 years, what our vision is. And we're not planning any really work while we're there, but, there'll be a lot of before and after, and also some renderings of what the future, what we see for Dallas Road in the future as well. So it'll be a fun event. Rich needs the privilege to meet the mayor. Everybody should meet Mayor Tate. So it'll be a fun evening. More details to follow.
Is there any other business to come before the board?
Just one item, Mr. Chairman. We have, I think, 41 cities in the county where regional transportation authority only 4 cities are participating with us in any meaningful way. And we used to get reports at each board meeting from Deetra on the efforts that we were making with other cities and trying to come up with some kind of transportation connection with them so that we could garner that support and truly be a regional authority. So I'd like to suggest that maybe we should get an update on that at the next meeting, where we stand with these 37 other cities, and have some assurance that we're moving forward with trying to get them on board, because, as you know, the county could be a really important partner with us if they just would help us with some of our local funding for capital projects. And maybe that's one thing that would convince them that we were eligible for their consideration.
Yeah, always good to have a regional idea in mind, but please understand Arlington isn't interested in public transit, and Grand Prairie has a prohibition by charter against joining a public transit agency. And all of the cities have different needs, and I think Deidre has done a great job in trying to, put the round peg in a round hole. Sometimes it's just not there. And Paul Ballard had this comment, people always talking about the regional approach, somebody doesn't want to pay for their services. We do and want to be regional. These smaller towns have different needs. They might just be able to, in fact, talk to Southlake about a zip zone. They want to use Tesla for zip zone. Okay, they don't want to pay for it. I'm good with it. So I don't mind being brought up to date. I think it's really an important effort. We should be as regional as we possibly can. Very happy to do that. It is not without some difficulty. There's a lot of people that just can't afford it. Don't want to pay.
It may be
Jeff?
water against stone, and it may be that we may, and maybe Rich can bring us some information from his experience about how you get other communities on board. And that's all I have to say.
Have you had a chance to talk to the mayor of Forest Hill?
No, we spoke to the mayor Friday, and she said she was going to wait until after she got officially sworn in before she called us. So I'm thinking it'll be a week or so. I think it'll be probably the first week in July.
Yeah, she ran into both Rich and Chad at the Chamber of Commerce meeting last week.
I don't think they wanted to pay for it.
I know.
Today.
I know.
Yeah.
Same issue, but she was pretty excited about it.
Good. We'll give it a shot. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Teresa, she outranks me.
Yeah, that's okay. No, it's fine. I just wanted to ask if we could, as we prepare for the legislative session, if maybe we might get an update about where we are, what our focus is going to be, and perhaps talk to the board, present to the board, and we might be able to help with whatever that is, reach out to our network and see if we can facilitate some support, whatever we're looking to propose to the legislative, whenever we feel it's appropriate, but I'd like to get an update if we can. And then the secondary to that, I just wanted to mention, I wanted to thank Deetra and her staff. I had a couple of calls recently. One of them was particularly for a special needs person, and her office was very attentive, responsive, and took care of the issue right away. And I just wanted to thank you for that. And then also she's worked with our sister cities. We have a group of people coming in. Actually, they just arrived, if I'm not mistaken, and she was very attentive and was able to provide them some transportation and tickets and things that they needed so that they can be using our transit for the few weeks that they're going to be here. So I wanted to thank you for that as well.
Where are they from?
This group is from Mexico, and then we've got some coming in from Asia as well, I believe, yes. So thank you.
Steve gave the thumbs up in the legislative update, so.
Great, thank you.
Bring it back, Steve. We'll keep trying again.
Yes.
I have three things. One, Teresa reminded me of another one. First, I want to acknowledge that Deidre with the Fort Worth Metropolitan Black Chamber, I forget what your role is there, but you were up on stage representing us well. You're the, what? Chair of the Planning Committee. That is so awesome. So I really want to thank you for not only representing us, but being part of that very important agency to our community as well. Secondly, I want to thank the board and staff for allowing me the opportunity to go to the APTA Rail Conference. I know we talked a little bit in our committee meetings last week, but on the record here, very educational, and I highly encourage each and every one of us to continue to attend those, and I'm happy to attend anytime y'all want me to, because I like learning things that aren't part of my day job. That was actually fun. I got to use a different piece of the brain for a while. And then finally, I have a challenge for Chad, and I also would like my fellow board's opinion, but my friend Bud Kennedy posted on Facebook about the Forest Park train is having some struggles right now. The wonderful man that's been engineering it forever and partnering with the city is having some health struggles, and it's sitting idle, and children of today are not afforded the memory-inducing moments that I think everyone at this table has experienced. I think Michael and his kids have actually ridden it, but I actually remember riding it. Yeah, I remember riding it back when I could fit in it. So I would like to know if it's possible, if we're interested. I kind of want to see if Trinity Metro could absorb this in some fashion in partnership with the city or from the city, take it over, and maybe we could be the first agency in the U.S. to have a mini train as part of our fleet and use it as a pre-branding, teaching the next
Marketing
gen.
tool.
I mean, we could have the whole thing TRE branded and engineer it, and I think that we definitely, anything that we are able to figure out and do needs to pay homage to the family and the gentleman that's been part of it forever. But his health is not allowing him to continue with that, and we don't need that train to sit idle when it's such an asset for our community, and it's the first entry point into train riding for many kids in our community. And if Chad were any good at his relationships with the city, we could just make this happen like that. Chad, in all seriousness, Chad is constantly working with the city, and there might be a way for tying this to how some of our other agreements work. This is a financial burden on the city, and they're not equipped to be rail operators. That's why they partner with us. So first off, is our board interested in asking staff to pursue a partnership or something there so that this train in our community doesn't sit idle?
Can I add to that? Oh. It's the city park. I'll add to that. If you haven't read the Fort Worth Report article, it's a great article that they wrote. It is kind of a gem for the city. It's funny because this conversation got brought up, and I'm going to out my business partner, Will Northern, who sent me this over the weekend saying, is this something that Trinity Metro would actually be interested in? And I went back and I said, maybe you should invest in it. I think you'd look great in some overalls and an engineer hat. But out of seriousness, it is something that we could look at, and just for some... The article points out, I forget the man's name, but it has been an income generator for his family for 50 years, so it makes money. And I think there are probably ways to run it more efficiently. So if it is something that it is an investment of a marketing tool, it might be kind of cool for us to look at.
The city owns a right-of-way.
City owns the right-of-way, from my understanding. I just had a talk with the city manager at another meeting, so it is. But they sell food at one side. They sell tickets. They do this. It has provided at least some moderate income for this gentleman for 5 decades. So
we could take it over and wrap it and make it an actual TRE train. Maybe if that partnership works out, do it with the Fort Worth Zoo train inside the zoo. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunity. If we want the next gen to be rail-centric, they need to be, taught that the system is unified from their first memories on. So,
one small comment: the zoo is not run by the city.
Right, but I'm just saying, if the partnership works, we can.
I think we'd have to probably would be better off.
So the train is separate from the zoo.
Right.
Yeah, so it is a separate entity.
Charles, I was just
privately
saying
owned.
specifically that if the Forest Park Zoo works as a case study, there are other trains in our city that we could partner with.
You mean the Forest Park train works
Right.
as a case study,
Right.
not the zoo. It's getting confused there.
Okay.
I think it's a great
Went too
idea,
far.
but we just need to be talking to the right people.
Yeah.
I'm all for it if they'll start selling beer.
Right. This is being recorded, Jeff.
Hey, Chad could
And
talk
bourbon.
to,
If it's being recorded, let's just get that on the
There we
record
go.
too.
maybe Chad could talk to Michael Morris.
I think it is where I would back you up, Ben, on that conversation, because it is a great asset. And again, we're not necessarily equipped to do it, but I just want to point out it has been making money, and probably if we're running it a little more efficiently, there might be some other ways to do that. It hasn't been from at least losing money.
Right. Chad, do you want to chime in, or?
I think the decision's already been made, so.
Since there's no further business to come before the board, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good meeting, Mr. Chairman.